I'm just thinking, how do we describe today's main event wrestler who we're covering, Mr. Isaacs?
I think he would probably come in here and call you a slap nut.
Slapner. I've not heard that name in absolute ages.
Y'all bunch of slap nuts over there overseas. That's what he would say to you and Haney.
Okay, I mean, Annie, how would you describe our main event?
Yeah, I mean, he is the what was it? What's it called? The guy that. So I've lost my train of thought there. I was going to make a sarky joke about Slapnut and you stole it.
So anyway, we're covering Jeff Jarrett, the highs and lows. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I mean, you can go check them out, obviously, on the archives and stuff. Enough rambling on. We know the rules. Roll the intro. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another edition of the Magic of Wrestling podcast. I'm, of course, one half of the host, Liam Wakelin.
And you guys know me. I'm the American half of this equation. I am Mr. I6. Good afternoon, everybody in America.
And Tiffany says, hi, Slapnuts to Mr. Isaac. So I presume she's calling you Slapnuts, ain't it?
Well, yeah. It's the Europeans. European slapnuts. That's what I said, right?
Yep.
Good afternoon, Tiffany.
Dear Mr. Isaacs, weekly catch up and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, we saw that you obviously graded in martial arts.
I did, yeah. We were scheduled to have a seminar with Carlson Gracie Jr., who's Hoist Gracie's cousin. For anyone out there who doesn't know, he's the kind of the sanctioning body of our school. It's who we're affiliated through, and he came to our school on Sunday, but we had a fucking blizzard. So I ended up missing the seminar, but I went to my usual gi Thursday night class, and I was awarded another stripe. So I'm now officially a 2-stripe white belt. I've got a couple more to go, and then I'll advance to blue belt. So I'm pretty happy about that. It's pretty exciting. It's like, I'm a 41-year-old man. I'll be 42 this year, and I've been really picking it up pretty well. Like I'm kind of even surprised myself. Like I'm catching people in submissions now, like guys that are younger than me and doing competitions I'm going toe to toe with. So I feel pretty good about that.
It's incredible because I always remember when we first obviously had this conversation when you first started, and you know what I mean? And to see where you are now, and obviously how long have you been doing now? Is it about 8 months? Probably a bit longer?
10 months. I started in March 2024.
Wow, so it's also coming up to a year, and like you said, man, do you feel miles better for it in yourself, mentally and physically?
Absolutely. Like jiu-jitsu has done wonders for me mentally and physically. Like I can't express enough what it's done for me. Like it's boosted my confidence. I told you it's contributed to my weight loss. I've lost 30 pounds. I'm pretty confident I can handle myself if any Joe Blow tried to do something out on the street unless they had a weapon. It's just a good feeling, man. It's an overall good feeling. I've met a lot of cool people, become friends with a lot of people in the school, and it's great. It's one of the best things I've ever done in my adult life is join a jiu-jitsu gym.
Incredible stuff like that. So obviously we saw that obviously WWE now is on Netflix. You obviously watch Raw. I watched the highlights. What do we reckon?
I thought the Raw show was a mixed bag. It was a mixed bag for me. Like I thought that the matches were really good. But it went at a very slow pace, a lot of extra fluff. I didn't like The Rock coming out and like breaking character and like giving props to Cody and giving him a hug. It's like, bro, you were like bloodying him up a year ago.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me.
I thought of looking at it from a different perspective. That wasn't for you and me. That was for new people that were going to see, what's this WWE stuff? Oh, there's The Rock. he's quite a what was it, a important guy in the entertainment scene. I don't think this Raw will be the typical sort of Raw on Netflix. They maybe do one or two, and then it'll get sort of back into the sort of like introducing more sort of the wrestling. But I think this one was more about. I mean, for better or worse, it was more about trying to attract an audience. You know, what was it? You know, and the whole sort of rock thing. Yeah, that was a bit off. But they can always turn that back pretty quickly. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And what about you, Annie? How's your week been and stuff like that?
It was long. It started on Monday and finishes today. So, what was it called? Yeah, long week.
Yeah. Anything exciting, or is it back to work?
Oh, just back to work. Really, you know what it's like. Straight back to work after a bit of a break. It's like a.
Yeah, this week was like the first full week for me back at work. We obviously had 2 days last week, and then obviously the full week this week. And I don't know what happened. Come like the middle of the week, you're like, I just want to go home.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to be here anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sticking with obviously like the thing on Netflix and stuff. I remember watching SmackDown yesterday, and like after the breaks, the overhead like camera thing, it just looked really, really dull. Like there was no music, and it took like 2 minutes before the commentator started talking again, which is a weird, rude concept. I didn't watch Raw much, but was that the same, Mr. Isaacs?
Well, for one thing, SmackDown.
If you are new to jiu-jitsu and you are one.
I don't know what that was, but
that was me looking up about what was it? While you were talking, I was opening a tab on jiu-jitsu to sort of read about the belt classifications, and a video started playing, so I've now muted it. I do apologise.
Oh no, you're fine.
This is what happens when you're live, right?
You know, I was opening it for later because I'll forget. So I opened a tab, and you know what it's like. But was it you forget sometimes when you go into a website, it starts playing a video, and it's like, no, that's the video.
Well, at least it wasn't an ad for like dick pills or something.
Oh, nothing wrong with ads for dick pills, you know. Jeez, nothing wrong with that, you know.
Is your penis lacking blood flow?
Yes.
If you're visiting this website, that's probably the case. So here, take these pills. It'll make everything a lot better for you.
Yes. Have your wrestling roster been overindulging on No, I won't go there because you think you know.
Let's swiftly move on before we get kicked off. Sorry, Mr. Isaac. We were talking about obviously WWE on Netflix.
Yeah, well, SmackDown's not on Netflix here; it's on USA. So it was just like a traditional TV broadcast for me. And it was kind of the same for Raw too. Like we had commercials. You know, we had full-on commercials. I don't think they have them internationally, but we had them. So it was really just like a regular TV product. It didn't seem that much different, really.
I don't think it'll change that much. Everybody was going on about the adverts as well. If it was everything was made on all this stuff was made on assumptions of like people were like Netflix or TKO or WWE never said, and they sort of put out something before it happened that internationally they don't have stuff, but. What people don't realise is internationally, we don't have the ad breaks that you do. You used to have like 10 ad breaks for every 5 minutes of what was it, television. Yeah. You know, what was it? So even when Raw is on over here, on TNT. What was it? We would get the normal ad breaks, but we would also get weird sort of like. What was it? Offshoots of like WWE shop or a pay-per-view sort of advert, you know, just to fill in that spot. And it was very much the same. I watched it live. It was very much the same. There was no ads. They just put more of the WWE content, which is really an ad for everything the WWE do. The WWE shop, you know, they're advertising their charities. So sometimes they did a little interview with a wrestler or something like that. But it's adverts in a different way. So don't think these are being conned out of anything because we're still getting the same crap.
Yeah. Mr. Isaac, do you think, obviously being on Netflix now, obviously it's all about growth because we know how many people, obviously, in the world's got Netflix?
Oh, yeah. I mean, most households have Netflix at this point.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of people, particularly in this country. I don't know if it's like that overseas. I imagine it is, that have just completely gotten rid of having television packages entirely, and they just have things like Netflix, Prime Video, Peacock or whatever. So it's definitely going to broaden the base. And if you look at the number, I don't know, did you see the viewership? Like the numbers of the viewership? I mean, it was like almost 5 million people worldwide watch Monday Night Raw. That is an insanely high number for a wrestling show in 2025.
I said to a couple of people because we were talking about it, and they were like, "What? What was it?" And I think it's these sort of usual things. Well, I thought it'd be higher than that, the British numbers and that was the thing. And I'm like, listen, it's 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK, 2 o'clock in France, and what was it? Germany doesn't even have it yet because of their TV deal,
Yeah.
But what's it called? But was it that as a live number is amazing,
Yeah.
But was it just what was it? Especially for something like wrestling, will they sustain it? Who knows? Probably not. But
I don't think it'll. They're not going to see that number again, I don't think. But I do think it's going to be relatively higher than it was on USA.
Yeah, and I'll definitely going away from the sort of live viewings. What was it? If you look at the numbers on the social media stuff, it was enormous. And what was it? And what was it? Obviously, that's not taking into account the people that watch it during the week and consume products very differently than we traditionally think when we were growing up watching wrestling on normal television.
Yeah,
that's why AEW needs to get to that platform really quickly. That sort of platform really quickly, because cable television is dying a death.
It's all streaming now, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, they're all looking at all the big sports like NFL. What was it? I know basketball and baseball just signed new deals, but what was it? Even the English Premiership over here, they're looking at like just providing their own streaming service and showing every game under a subscription.
That's how it should be.
What was it? That's going to kill it off completely. And the reason AEW is able to be on television is because of other sports. Because they want to take that sort of sport content. What was it on their sort of portfolio? We've got 10% sports. There's a lot more to it than. I mean, as it came out, it's what was it? It sounded like Raw was nearly getting taken off TV. If it wasn't for what Vince did from the story during the week. So what was it? Pretty recently. So it just shows nothing's sort of guaranteed.
Not at all. Yeah. So you mentioned obviously AEW there, and obviously I've been checking obviously the news thing throughout the week. This arises, it seems really, really quiet from AEW side. It just seems like they're just going about the business slowly but sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to report much. Like they had the big Max deal, which was cool. I mean, it's all well and good that they're on Max, but I just can't help but feel deflated that they're still going to charge for pay-per-views.
Yeah,
that's a loser in 2025. That's a loser. I just think to me that took away all the excitement. Now, I mean, it's cool that you don't have to have TBS now to watch AEW. That is pretty big. It is, honestly. They're never going to get 5 million viewers.
No,
it's just never going to happen. I'm sorry. But what I'm hoping they do is that eventually they move all the pay-per-views to Max, and then maybe they would at least have some chance to cross-expose some general Max users to pro wrestling, other than just their weekly show, which is very hit and miss. Obviously, the pay-per-views are better than the weekly shows. That's true for WWE and AEW.
Yep.
And yeah, I just don't. I think WWE's riding high right now, and AEW is just stagnant. Yeah. I just think that's how it's going to be most of this year.
The problem with the AEW is it's just match after match after match after match. Now, I know people will criticize WWE because they have like all these segments, and yeah, last week they had far too many segments. But obviously, that like let's put that in a sort of like what was it on a shelf. That might be an anomaly. We don't know, but what was it? A lot of stuff happens in AEW where there's no purpose to it, or
yeah.
I've had that argument with with some of our cohorts over on the AFW network before because they think I'm insane for thinking that AEW pay-per-views are too long. I'm like, bro, I don't want to see 17 fucking matches and like every Ring of Honor title defended. It's a law of diminishing returns. When you just start stacking all these matches that have no meaning and no value other than just move, pin. It gets
especially
old,
with
man.
the pre-show as well. I mean, you've got how many matches on the pre-show? It's about 3 or 4 normally.
And say what you want about WWE, but they make their matches feel like something.
Yeah,
you know? It's just different.
And as a great Jim Cornette says about that, fight forever. I don't want to even fuck forever.
Yeah. He's like, fight forever. Why the fuck are they saying fight forever? You ain't supposed to want to fight to go fucking forever. You're supposed to want the baby face to fucking win.
Tiffany Trim says, I finally got HBO Max. She finally watched Double or Nothing yesterday.
I did too, Tiffany. I watched the very first Double or Nothing. And it was just, to me, it was astonishing how much like better the product looked back then than compared to now. I know it sounds crazy to say, but like, it was presented in more of a sport-like manner. And like, I think that going back and watching a 2019 AEW show, I enjoyed the presentation a lot more than today's AEW.
Yeah, that's because they had Cody.
Yeah.
Cody was doing the booking.
Yeah.
You know, and then little by little they took it away from him.
It was better. It was absolutely better.
It was, you know, that was it. Even the Bucks matches weren't like totally. They were still shit, but they weren't totally shit. You know. Right. But what was it? Yeah, you know, it doesn't make.
Yeah.
They lost their way, and everybody thinks that like people have just flipped because the WWE's cool and that, you know. It's like, because somebody said that to me, I says like, I've always watched WWE whether it was good or bad. I've never disputed that.
Yeah,
you know. But was it always watch it. But was and like, but I says I sit through TNA, I've sat through TNA, and I sit through all the other stuff I can get a hold of. But it's like when you lose like the purpose of anything, you know, of what's going on. That was there's no point in watching it. You know, what was it? You can argue Ric Flair had the same match every time he had a big match, right? Yeah, and it's probably true. But you don't want to watch it every single week. Sometimes twice a week. You know.
No.
Well, Ospreay's going out and given the exact same match, and what was it? Meltzer's giving him like 10 stars. You know. You know, what was it? And it's like, well, you've got to judge him on what, like, was it as good as the last one? You tell me that was better, you know? Yeah, he can take his chocolate starfish and roll it up his arse. That's what I say.
Ospreay did his flippity-doo a lot better this week than his flippity-doo from last week. Right.
Yeah.
I think what pisses me off is when you look at the AEW roster, that roster is pretty stacked. You know, I mean, some great talent on there, but just for some bizarre reason, I mean, I watch the product sometimes and I don't feel invested. Like you mentioned the Double or Nothing thing. That was obviously a pay-per-view when I got back invested in wrestling, but lately with AEW, it's just like it's frustrating to watch. You know what I mean? I know it's only 2 hours and that, but it's like
Liam, like you can't get invested whenever guys like Lance Archer. I made a joke on Dynamite After Dark the other night. None of my cohorts laughed, but like I made a joke that Lance Archer is making his biannual appearance on Dynamite.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
true, though.
You can't shuffle a guy out once every fucking 4 to 6 months and expect to get a reaction. You know, like it's ridiculous.
And it's the same with like some of this, like everybody says like Swerve. You don't like Swerve, you like the song. You don't like the wrestler, for crying out loud. You know.
Awesome. Right then, gentlemen. Should we get into main event or we're
there was the other thing going back to Raw as well. I wanted to mention about Punk, about all the people like what was getting what was it triggered with Punk wearing the jersey he was wearing. Oh, he's doing that to wind up AEW with the Triple X on it. No, Punk had the Triple X. What was it? On the back of his hoodie, going way back before he was even known as a wrestler. You know, that was his whole gimmick. You know,
it's straight edge culture. Yeah, I mean
And
that's
it's like
that's the symbol he's been using for many, many years.
it's like just because he wore it all in when that happened doesn't mean that's what it now represents. You know, that it's like learn a bit of history. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they don't care
Right.
about history because they don't care about the veterans. It's like today is the best, and we don't care about anything from the past.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
so good wrestling nowadays. You know.
The only thing I
might-
want from AEW is Tony Khan to get off fucking Twitter. Or X, sorry.
That's funny.
Yeah. I might just start. What was it? Start watching gymnastic meets on YouTube and start reviewing them as wrestling matches. That's what I'll do.
That sounds really creepy hearing it on every level.
Yeah, you want to watch some like real like grappling? You know, watch some jujitsu tournament matches. There you go. I could send you some good of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
The master, he's graded there, so he can obviously help you out.
Good stuff.
Oh dear. Right then, gentlemen, shall we get into the main event?
Let's do it.
There we go.
The main event.
I've got to be honest, I like that coin bit at the start.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
Cha-cha-ching.
Ching. Right then, Mr. Isaacs, I was why don't you explain to people listening what this obviously highs and lows series is about?
We take a wrestler, we chronicle their history and the good points and the bad points, the finer points and the not so fine points of their career. And this week we have JEFF JARRETT.
Jeff Jarrett. The weird one is with Jeff. I mean, straight away, I'm gonna, off the bat is he's one of those wrestlers where he kind of grew me over the years. I mean, at the start, I'm like, I don't like this guy at all, but once you get to know him, like obviously you watch stuff behind the scenes and stuff, like you're thinking, actually, this guy's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know what you thought, Mr. Isaacs.
I always liked Jeff Jarrett. He was always low key, one of the guys I really enjoyed watching. And
Yeah.
you know, I saw for years and years and years the IWC shit all over him, and I always thought it was unwarranted. I mean, you know, did he book himself as the top heel in TNA? Yeah, but he got over as the top heel in TNA.
He was massive. He was massive over here. Jeff Jarrett. What was it? He put Jeff Jarrett on television over here, and he's much beloved by wrestling fans over here. You know, he just with the TNA stuff, and
Yeah.
even the world when unfortunately it sort of fell apart a wee bit because of like COVID and things like that. But the world of sports stuff as well. When they were announcing that, he was the guy that was on stage. You know. It was going to be super cool, and then all of a sudden it sort of fell apart. But these things happen, you know. But yeah.
So, Mr. Isaacs, I asked Will Caven this weekend, obviously this week just gone, and I said to him, "Do you think Jeff Jarrett's underrated in the wrestling world as a whole? What do you think?"
Oh, absolutely he is. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I've always been a fan of his. I always thought his work was solid. I always thought his promo ability was really good. I always thought he played a great heel. And I mean, he's obviously got a good mind for the business. I absolutely think Jeff Jarrett's underrated.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what to say about that.
She likes her fellow Tennessean, Jeff Jarrett.
And she actually agrees, absolutely underrated. So, anyway, what do you think?
Unfortunately, he's putting the angle into Karen. So what was it? Yeah, Tiff. I'm afraid that boat's sailed for you, unfortunately.
So yeah, we've got obviously 7 talking points picture wise. We may have time for some more and stuff, and we're just going to talk about the whole thing and see what we think. And we have to decide whether it's a high or a low. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because we haven't done these for a while, Mr. Isaac. Sometimes we get a neutral.
Yeah, we've had a few of those where it's like we can see it kind of high and kind of low, but kind of evens out in the middle.
Yeah, but that won't happen because there's 3 of us.
Yeah, there's 3 of us now, so I mean that'll kind of like tilt the balance one way or the other.
Unless one goes high, one goes low, and one goes neutral.
We'll see. We'll see. So these are in no
I'm just going to
particular
go
order.
neutral for everything now.
Right. So I'm going to go. Right. These are in obviously no particular order, and we're just going to get the worst one out of the way, which I think anyway. And it's of course Bash at the Beach, the 2000 incident. I mean, I remember watching this because I had to watch it back, obviously from history and stuff like that. And I just remember watching it, going, "What the actual fuck?" I mean, Amy, I'll start with you. I mean, this is basically backstage politics coming to the base of the front of the wrestling.
Yes, this is what was it? This is Vince Russo being a cunt. See, I didn't see it. It says cunt.
Just say it.
What?
We could say cunt here.
Yeah. Okay. What was it? What was it? This is Vince Russo being a cunt face twatty bollocks.
I haven't heard that one before. That's a very British type slur. I like it.
Twatty bollocks. Sorry, Andy, please continue.
Yes. This probably summed up WCW at the end. This whole, if you were to pick it wasn't really, but if you were to pick a moment that people knew WCW was done for, it was this. You know, it was just an absolute. It was an absolute shit show. What they sort of did, and it was obviously Hogan was pissed, and what was it? I don't think Jeff was too keen on doing what they did. Well, so he says, you know. But what was it? It was a very, very, what was it, odd thing to do, and it really sort of turned a lot of people off WCW that never actually, but the people that didn't actually, if you actually speak to some people who when I have spoke to people on like forums and communities and that in the past, and pretty much that was they didn't go into WWF, they didn't watch WWF, they just stopped watching wrestling until sort of Ring of Honor and that appeared, you know. What was it? And they sort of got back into it, but it was never the same for them, you know.
No.
This is one of the moments, and it wasn't really directly Jeff's fault, I don't think, although that's debatable because obviously people know Jeff and Vince Russo were quite close friends as well. But
yeah,
that was a lot of this the shit that is thrown at Vince Russo a lot of the time, and deservedly so for a lot of it, is just flung because he's an easy target. You know, ultimately what was it, who called WCW? That decision was made way above anybody's pay grade. You know, but this certainly wasn't a great moment for wrestling or WCW or Jeff Jarrett. I don't think.
No, not at all. I mean, Mr. Isaacs, it was kind of like a tricky situation for Jeff to be in, let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, he just, I guess he felt compelled to do it because, I mean, obviously, what's he going to do? Say no. The boss is coming and telling him, hey, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do, bro. And he had to go out and execute it. It was absolute dog shit. It was terrible. It was one of the reasons why WCW went under. And, despite, staying away from all the arguments about what was a work, what was a shoot, what was supposed to happen, what wasn't supposed to happen, looking at it strictly from the context of Jeff Jarrett's career, like what we're doing here, I think it was a bad look for him.
Yeah.
I think it was a bad look for him. I mean, he was the, he was the champion.
Yep.
And I mean, to lay down and then just give the world championship to Hogan and then strip it from Hogan and then wrestle Booker T. And it was just dumb. It was a really, really dumb moment.
And it's not as if he could do it. He couldn't. He didn't have a backup plan at that point because TNA wasn't a thing. Because obviously WCW thing. And at that point, if you spoke to Vince, he basically wanted to rip his head off and shut down his throat. You know. Yeah. So what was it? And we'll get to that point later. But
yeah, we'll talk about that in one of our other points.
But so it's what was it? It's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. You know. He might as well. What was it? He might as well be the guy that benefits from it. You know, if you're the guy that they choose to do it, then it's hard because of what wrestling is. You know, especially the Jarretts. What was it? If you go back and look at what his dad achieved from the wrestling, and his mum. You know, what was it? Huge big part of the wrestling. You know, so it's a difficult one. I don't think he would have liked it. I don't think he liked winning it that way from what I've understood from interviews from him. But again, it's difficult.
No, exactly. And if I remember rightly, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mr. Isaacs. Didn't it like get out of the ring quicker than like you can name anything after the 1, 2, 3? I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
I think I remember. Yeah, he got out because there's also a Dark Side of the Ring episode on it, so we saw obviously what the backstage politics stuff were and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, it is probably one of the most annoying ones. That and obviously the finger poker doing, but that's a different show overall. So one of the things obviously we do now is Mr. Isaacs. Is it a high or is it a low for this?
Low.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it is a low, Joe. I mean, it's a bad look, obviously, for him and stuff like that. And the ramifications, the bigger picture, yeah, it's not really good. Any?
Yeah, it's not a good look, and that was it left a sort of bittersweet taste in a lot of wrestling fans as well. So, for something they loved, they knew it was ending essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all in agreement. So obviously, it's a low. Next one is I'm just going to, like I said, put these in a random order, and it's I'll show you the image, and Mr. Isaacs, take it away.
Global Force Wrestling. Boy, that was a big flop, wasn't it?
It was.
So the idea here was that, he had sold TNA to Dixie Carter and, fizzled out of TNA because of, personal issues and whatever. Decided he was going to start another wrestling promotion. And he started Global Force Wrestling. And I remember when he first came up with this idea, the first thing he did was kind of do it from like a television production kind of angle, like outsourcing TV production. Because if you remember, the very first Wrestle Kingdom that ever had English commentary was a Global Force Wrestling production with Jim Ross doing play-by-play. So that was kind of how he got started with this. And I think he also had plans to do the same thing with AAA. I think he did do it. I think he had English commentary on AAA for one of their Triple Manias. And that was kind of like how he got started with this. But then he was going to actually have his own physical promotion called Global Force Wrestling. And it just didn't go anywhere. Like there's this famous story where they had Chael Sonnen, the UFC legend. They had him come in, and I think he was one of the commentators, and they filmed like an entire month of television tapings, and they never released them. And supposedly, according to the story, all the footage got fucking lost in a hard drive crash.
Oh wow!
In TNA, because Global Force ended up kind of like merging back into TNA because Jeff was going to take over. And he was going to purchase TNA and change it to Global Force. That was the idea. But then there was some kind of falling out. I don't remember exactly all the specifics, but it ended up not happening. But if you watched Impact during that time, there was a couple of weeks where it actually was called Global Force Wrestling. And it had the green logo and everything. I mean, like it was transitioning to Global Force. And then it just bottomed out. And that was kind of the end.
Yeah,
he also had some kind of weird thing where he was selling gold bars too. That was kind of odd, kind of scammy.
The weird thing is, I mean, when I first heard about Global Force, I got really invested. Do you know what I mean? Thinking, okay, something new, because I'm always looking for like a new promotion to check out, just something different and stuff like that. I actually remember, obviously, when it was called Global Force TNA or something along the lines. I can't remember exactly. Yeah. And it was really, really good. But then all of a sudden, it's just like, boom, Global Force is number. I'm like, really? Yep.
And that's when they briefly, like Cornette came in briefly, and like he was working with Jeff, and like it was going to be interesting, but then it just fell off a cliff, and that was the end of it.
Yeah. It was. Hey, what do you remember about Global Force?
Pretty much everything you've covered. It was obviously you covered the gold thing, which was basically just a big pyramid scheme. So
right. You can get your Global Force Wrestling gold.
Gold, yes. There's gold in them damn hills. What was it called? But yeah, I think the only gold it would have been chocolate pennies. I think you got. What was it? Rather than gold.
It was gold wrapped candy bars. That's what it was.
Exactly.
Golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory or something.
Yes. Willie Jarrett's chocolate factory.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that sounds pretty scary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That is a weird one. Anything to add on that?
No, it was pretty much. What was it? It was came and gone as quick as a fart, really, didn't it? So
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
absolutely. I think if I remember, that's where the term global farce wrestling came from.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
I heard that quite a few times. So yeah, I think I kind of know the answer to this, but obviously we're going to follow suit. It's got to be a low for me. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a good look. It got a little bit of buzz, but then it fell a little bit flat. So yeah, it's a low for me, Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, it's a definite low for me. The only positive that I could ascertain from this, from wrestling as a whole, is that this kind of sparked New Japan to start running English commentary on their shows.
Okay.
It was just
But
unfortunate.
other than that, it was low.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate. It was Kevin Kelly they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had yeah. Jim Ross sounded pretty good calling it in those early days, but yeah.
Yep. And is it a low for you?
Yeah, it's a low.
Of course it is. Of course it is. So before we obviously continue, we're going to obviously take our mid-session interval to promote obviously the up-and-coming shows in the UK and stuff like that. Obviously, I changed it a little bit, so we've got a little bit of music, which Haney obviously put together for us. So, Haney, thank you so much. Here's a little 90-second for the shows coming up.
Now is day. Oh, it isn't time for going slow. Oh, the greatest road to know is what's within. Is what's within. Is what's within. Oh, the fouler wind hath blown now, and onwards round all that we know. Great monsters hide inside halos, with jackals disguised down below. Oh, don't it mean to see them when shadows have faded? And the lion's den, those pastures predicted in scrolls. Hey, gauntlet, quandary, family, glory.
What do you think of that song, Mr. Isaacs?
I liked it. It slaps, as the kids like to say.
It slaps and it taps. Yes, as the kids like to say.
Slaps and taps, maybe even baps as well.
Baps, yes.
That means something else in the UK.
Yeah.
What does
Yeah.
bap mean in the UK? Explain it in detail.
Something good.
Something very, very good.
Yes.
I gotta like brush up on my Brit lingo here,
Yes.
especially since I'm now officially in the minority here.
Yes.
Yeah. Tiffany likes that actual song. If you want to grab it, speak to Haney. But yeah, if any UK fans want to check out any of the promotions, links obviously in the description called upcoming shows. Go check out their website. And do you know what I mean? Just go and support some British wrestling. Do you know what I mean? That's all else we want.
Yep.
Easy
Oh
enough.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Right then, back to obviously Jeff Jarrett. And where should we go? I'll tell you what, let's get a big one out of the way, shall we? So we've talked a lot about TNA, but it's one thing to remember that he founded TNA. Do you know what I mean? I always remember the backstory of this, which was him and his dad. Was it 400,000 they used to start up with that? I could be wrong about that, but I mean, TNA, do you know what I mean? We know, obviously, they've had their ups and downs, but Annie, I'll start with you. They're still around, let's be honest.
Yeah, everybody's had them sort of like that's him. That they're dead. They're not going to last another year for. I've been saying that for about 10 years, 15 years, but they're still about. And the early days of TNA were so much fun. You know, miss that sort of like. Think of the stars that the early days sort of had. You know, AJ Styles. What was it, Samoa Joe? You know, some great times, some great feuds. The last time we seen Randy Savage was in TNA. What was it?
Is that where he ran ag in that triple threat match? In that 6-man tag?
That was the one with the weird sort of intro, whatever.
Okay. I mean, Mr. Isaac, I mean, TNA, do you know what I mean? They've had some great moments. I miss obviously the early days of TNA, Joe, the old ring setup and stuff like that. Don West on commentary, Joe, one of my absolute favorites. There's some great things when you look at the history and stuff like that, but it's one thing to remember. Jeff obviously started it.
Oh yeah. I mean, the wrestling landscape today would be so incredibly different, and not in a good way, without TNA. Like, TNA kept non-WWE wrestling alive in America. Like, if there hadn't been a TNA, I mean, Ring of Honor might have still existed, but nobody watched Ring of Honor in those early years. TNA is what people gravitated towards as like the WWE alternative. And without TNA, there's a whole lot of people that wouldn't have been seen, wouldn't have had their careers boosted. We wouldn't have AJ Styles today. We likely wouldn't see Samoa Joe. I know those were Ring of Honor guys, but again, I'm not sure Ring of Honor would have flourished without TNA. And TNA partnered with them early on and like gave them a lot of extra exposure. Until they had the Rob Feinstein incident, and Dixie's like, yeah, well, we can't work with you guys anymore. But TNA is just, I mean, the legacy of TNA is, in my opinion, going to be that they kept non-WWE wrestling alive in this continent. That's what I think their legacy is going to be. And I you have to call it a high. I mean, you have to. The fact that they're still around, I mean, they're still around 23 years later, guys.
Yeah.
23 years. Think about that. Like, what promotion outside of WWE has been alive 23 years?
I can't think of any, I'll be honest
Not
with
many.
you.
WCW didn't last that long. ECW didn't last that long. Like, it's just wild, man. It's wild that they're still here. But I'm glad to see that they're still here. I'm not sure what they'll contribute much nowadays, but speaking in terms of the Jarrett era, I think it was awesome. I Prime TNA was like some of my favorite wrestling to watch on TV. Like, I loved it. I thought TNA in the mid 2000s was just absolutely awesome. Like, I was a big fan of it. I miss that thrill of watching it today. And I wish something like that would come back. I know AEW thinks that they're that, but they're not.
Yeah.
I think it's great, though. This is a definite high for wrestling and for Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends how you look at the thing, but was it AEW? AEW has never been a competitor to the WWE. It's a different style. It's a different product. Whereas TNA had that sort of WWE entertainment stuff, there. But was it? Of course, but was it? But was it? The big thing to begin with was the King of the Mountain, Jeff Jarrett, the King of the Mountain. They had some awesome concepts with matches. So much so that Bill, he took some homage from these Memphis days, or in his daddy's day. What was it when doing wrestling? But they were doing matches that but nobody else was doing. The X Division stuff, that X Division, but was it a gimmick match? Is just still one of the best. I know they don't do it now because it's too risky.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many guys were getting sort of injured with it, but all these sort of things came under the banner of what was it, Jeff? What people don't realize. I say don't realize. People forget around that sort of time where everything was sort of taken off. We sort of look at Jeff, as a sort of, you see Jeff now, obviously he's with Karen, but they forget that he had a wife that passed away. He fought bravely against, I think it was cancer.
Yeah, she had cancer. Yeah.
So what was it called? So that turbulent time, during that period of time as well, he was doing all that while dealing with that in the home. I mean, how do you be on the road and have to deal with that? So I know they went on the road as much as the WWE, and it was filmed at Universal Studios and things like that. But still, but was it that's sort of hard, and but running a wrestling show isn't easy.
No, not at all.
So especially when you're dealing with shit like that.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously with Jeff as well, obviously in TNA. I mean, I love the 6-sided ring. I know some people didn't, but it was something unique. You know what I mean? It was something we didn't normally see. We used to see obviously the 4 sides, and Jeff and I had probably one of my absolute favorite feud, which I don't think gets talked about enough, is him and Kurt Angle. Having a little feud in there. I always remember that. That's probably one of my absolute favorites and stuff like that. And I think Mr. Isaac, you were spot on saying there. If it wasn't for obviously Jeff and TNA, we wouldn't have, like said, the Ring of Honor stuff. Do you know what I mean? So the impact, obviously, as a whole, that TNA/Jeff, do you know what I mean? It's big. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, you can't understate the importance of TNA in wrestling history, especially in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like I said, Mr. Isaac, you said it were a high. I think I know the answer, Haney, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Is it a high or low?
Yeah, it's definitely a high.
Absolutely. It is a high. Same again for me. We're all in agreement here. It's weird because we've not all disagreed. We're all kind of in agreement. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff's career is a little more cut and dry than some of these others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next one, but I'll just be a total cunt. You just go with one way, and I'll argue the other way. I can't do that.
I'm curious to see how you're going to actually debate this one then. So the next one we've got is
come on.
His WCW World Heavyweight Championship run. I will be honest with you, I don't know much about this. So, Mr. Rice, take this away.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Jarrett, obviously, like we talked about, was buddies with Vince Russo. They're pretty close with each other. So, he came in and, became the WCW Heavyweight Champion. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, I always liked Jeff. I thought he had a pretty good run as champion. He had some pretty good feuds. He was over. This is when he really got popular with the whole slap nuts thing and, bringing out silver guitars and hitting people with it and shit. Like, I liked it. I thought he did really good in this era. And, I enjoyed it. Obviously he had a feud with Booker T and, I'd have to go back and look at the record to see some of the other feuds that he had, but I enjoyed Jeff Jarrett as WCW champion.
Ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, he had quite a few sort of runs. I think he had 4. But was runs as WCW champion. But was and it was weird because it was in sort of really quick succession. What was it? Think. What was it? I was looking into this, preparing for this. So what was it? His first reign was at Spring Stampede, in the April 16th, and then he lost it on the 24th. What was it? And then he lost it to he won it against Diamond Dallas Page, and then he lost it to Diamond Dallas Page, and then he wins it again at Slamboree in May, and then he loses it again in May.
Is this just Vince Russo booking again? Slop change, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and in between the April and May, we had the whole Diamond Dallas Page, David Arquette thing,
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So, and then his third reign, believe it or not, was at the end of May. He defeated Flair, and then he lost it to Nash, and then he won it back, again at the Bash of the Beach. What was it? And then he lost it.
At Bash of the Beach.
At Bash of the Beach. So what was it? It's a very peculiar sort of what was it? Timeline of championship reigns. I don't think what was it? The first reign had 8 days. The second reign had, what was it? 8 days. The third reign had, I'm just counting that out, 11 days. and then the fourth reign had about an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
An hour and a half. Right.
Yeah. So that was when the Bigger Pog of Doom happened as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was how Kevin lost it to Hogan. So that whole April, May, June, July was an absolute shit show of wrestling. What was it? very turbulent time for the company. Lots of controversy going on at the time as well. Obviously, the stuff with Hogan and things like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff. Like, not to go too off the beaten path here, but like I saw a clip from the Russo era of WCW that I completely forgot about.
yeah,
And like the music played in the arena, and it was like kind of a reverse version of the New Age Outlaws thing, where it's like instead of it was like and then like this guy came out called Buzzkill. It was his brother, fucking Brad Armstrong, coming out like acting like Road Dog.
oh, for God's sake.
Shit,
Like, do
I
you
forgot
remember
about
this?
that.
Like, I don't know. I have no memory of this. I was like,
I
what?
can't
in the
remember
fuck
that.
is
I can't
this?
remember that at all.
That was awful.
You know?
I was like, holy shit, this is bad.
You know?
Wow.
People forget as well the Ready to Rumble movie. They actually did the match. You know, if you watch the what was it, the sort of movie, and it's like this ridiculous match, and then they try to replicate it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did the match in the movie, and then turn around and like, did the match with Jeff Jarrett instead of the fake fat Jerry Lawler they had in the movie, and
Jesus.
like basically just redid the whole main event scene.
Yeah.
Remember they had that fake like Jerry Lawler?
Oh.
He was like this fat guy with a beard, and they called him the King.
I don't even know what to say to
That was
that.
great.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I think I kind of know the answer to this one as well. I mean, does it, Mr. Isaac, is it high or low?
Him being a champion as a whole, is that what we're talking about here?
WCW one, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta say it's a high. I mean, when you're the world champion of one of the most well-known promotions in history, I think you gotta call it a high.
Yeah, hit it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of controversy in it, but you can't really get away from the fact that think of the lineage on that belt, what was it? You had Flair, Hogan, right up to Arquette.
The legends, Flair,
The
Hogan,
legends.
Sting, Arquette.
Yes.
I used to see people online refer to that belt as the peanut butter brittle belt, because that's what it looked like, a big piece of peanut brittle.
Peanut butter brew belt. Right. Next up, we've obviously got three more to things, so we'll try and knock these out of the park. Next up, we've got is departs from WWE in 1999. I mean, if I remember rightly, he's talked about this story on his podcast and stuff, like holding Vince for ransom and stuff. This got a little bit messy. I remember it. I mean, Mr. Azz, what do you remember about this?
Yeah, and for anybody that's read Jim Ross's books, like, he talks about this at length too, because apparently JR got into a shit ton of trouble with Vince for this. Because like he kind of blamed JR for this because he was like the talent relations guy at the time. Yeah. But Jeff Jarrett's contract was up and he was the Intercontinental Champion. And they didn't come to terms or whatever. He was going to WCW because his buddy Vince Russo was running it at that point. And he was like, fine, you want me to come drop the title to Chyna? He wasn't really thrilled about wrestling a woman and dropping the title to her. And he's like, you want me to do it? Fine. You pay me $100,000. I'll show up and do it.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. He went, dropped the belt to Chyna, and got paid $100,000 for that one match. And, obviously Vince McMahon was quite perturbed by this. And if you notice, if you go back and watch the last episode of Monday Nitro, when Vince is cutting all these like eulogy skits about various WCW guys, he did one about Jeff Jarrett. He's like, and Jeff Jarrett, you're JEFF, JARRETTGONE, gone. And make it like, you're never going to work for us. And, that's kind of like his way of twisting the knife and getting back at Jeff Jarrett. But, yeah, I don't think this did much for Jeff's career. I think it kind of shot him in the foot a little bit. So I mean, he obviously wasn't going to go back to the WWE once WCW went out, and then went on to start TNA. So I mean, I guess if you want to look at both sides of the coin here, you could even say this one was a neutral, because it was bad in the sense of that
Yeah.
it was bad for business. Screwed him over where he couldn't go back to WWE, but the fact that he couldn't go back to WWE led to him starting TNA. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could kind of argue either way that this was a good or a bad. This might be our first neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
did-
you've kind of made some valid points there, which I didn't even think about. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I can't even disagree with what you said there. I think you've hit the nail on the head, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Ain't it?
The only part of that story that it's not told that I heard is it created a little bit of a issue between him and his father, because his father was very much a McMahon sort of guy, you know. And there was some sort of animosity there, but it was obviously they got through that, you know. Things happen, but his dad wasn't was too fond of what he did, you know. But was he should have done a bit of business, you know.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one because everybody's very fond of Johnny in China. But I'll say it now, and I don't mean this as disrespect. I mean, I love Johnny. I love her character, but she was fucking god awful in the ring. You know, what was it? She was a terrible wrestler. You know, and even Chris Jericho says it. She says it was an absolute nightmare trying to work with her because she just didn't get it. She didn't get working in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes her heart speaks more than her head. You know, and I'm a big China fan, and I loved her character, and I loved
too.
some.
I absolutely love China, but I agree with
Yeah.
you. I mean, she wasn't a good wrestler, but I
Yeah.
loved her as a character and just an on-screen presence.
Joni was too nice of a person to be in the wrestling business. The wrestling business destroyed that woman. You
They
know,
did.
she was actually like, from everything I've heard about her, I never got a chance to meet her. She was an absolute sweetheart, you know. And what was it? It's just a shame, you know, what happened with her, and I wish she was still here, you know. And I think,
Yeah.
but she would thrive now. What was it? But it's just, you know, what was it? I wish we wouldn't put her on that pedestal. Because it destroyed her ultimately. You know, she went over to Japan and she was found out very quickly how much she was protected in the WWE. You know,
Yeah, she had one match in New Japan, right, against Masahiro Chono.
Yep.
It's not a very good one. If you want to look it up, it's out there on YouTube.
Okay. So yeah, I think I'm saying neutral. Mr. Isaac saying neutral. Ain't it?
Yeah, I'll go neutral.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So we're all
This
in
one
agreement
is
again.
not A or A. It's A.
Yeah. Like I said, we do get these obviously with what we do here. So we've got obviously two more, but the last one can kind of link into ending the show. So I want to talk about his intercontinental title runs. I mean, if I remember, I've just looked at the history now. Ain't it 6 times intercontinental champion? I mean, we know that obviously how privileged obviously the IC title is, and he really did obviously put that title on the map, I think.
Yeah, that was it. Definitely did, and he sort of introduced us to the sort of like there's multiple sort of runs. We had the whole Road Dogg thing with the song, you know, and it turned out that it was the Road Dogg singing, and then obviously, what was it? He disappeared for a wee while because he lost it because Road Dogg hooked the leg and pulled the leg, and he went down, and then he came back. You know, big return. He's going to do his big song, and then it turned out that it was Road Dogg all along, you know. So, that was remember all that, you know. That was like sort of cool, you know. Don't read the lyrics to that song because they're actually quite. They're not. If you're quite a diverse person, some of the lyrics in that song are not very PC nowadays. You know? What was it called? Great times, you know. He had a great run, and what was it when he came back with the IC belt as well. What was it? Just before the IC belt, they had that terrible NWA angle.
Yeah.
You know, what was it called? But and then they soon put him with what was it? The great Owen Hart as well. You know, and Deborah. What was it? What was it? Deborah. Somebody. I mean, what was it? We're talking about people that deserve to get their flowers. Deborah. It's a goddamn shame that what was it? She doesn't get the recognition that she gets.
I love Deborah. I always was a big fan of hers.
There's a political reason why they don't, and it's because they don't want to piss off Stone Cold, you know, because we all know what happened there, you know.
Yeah.
But absolutely amazing. You know, what was it called? And then obviously the stuff with Owen, and they were doing the Blue Blazers stuff as well. Where that was going, I don't know, but what was it called? It was just, I mean, Jeff had his match when Owen passed. Jeff was out in the ring. What was it? I think just before it, wasn't it? It was Jeff's match was before it.
No,
I
I thought
think
you were after.
it was after. But yeah,
Because he did the promo. If
It
I
was
remember
after,
right.
because he did a live
yeah.
promo right after it
I knew it
happened.
was. I knew it
Yeah.
was one. But yeah, what was it? Just some great memories of him as the IC belt. You know, you sort of hated him as well because he played that natural old school heel. You know,
Yep.
very well. But was it but was it great times?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm saying it's a high. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I've always been a massive fan of the IC tap, one of my favorite belts, and like I said, 6 times is nothing to be sniffed at. So yeah, for me, solid high, Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, it's a solid high for me as well. I mean, you could make an argument that Jeff Jarrett was the best mid card heel of the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
really could make that argument.
Yes.
And you know, the Intercontinental title is the quintessential mid card title, and you know, he was the heel champion for quite a while, and I think he did an amazing job. I always enjoyed him as IC champion. I think it's a definite high, and I do think he was the best heel of the mid card of the Attitude Era. I really do.
Yeah,
100%.
he's the last of the great sort of. I don't mean this disrespectfully. The last of the great sort of chicken shit heels. I know Dom's sort of built up a little bit like that now, you know. But the last great one was Jeff Jarrett, you know, where he got all the belts when he really shouldn't have, you know. And, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's anybody says Jeff didn't deserve any of the titles he got. It can put, even with everything he's done, you know, definitely he deserves it.
100%, 100%. So one final thing we have obviously on here is called, it was of course Hall of Fame induction 2028. So 2018, sorry, 2028. What am I on about? We're moving forward a bit. So let's try that again. Yeah, so 2018. So Mr. Isaacs, when it comes to obviously legacy, where does Jeff Jarrett stack up?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Jarrett's kind of done it all, hasn't he? I mean, he's wrestled in the territory days. You know, he wrestled on the big leagues and the Attitude Era. He was a main eventer. He was a mid carder. He was a promoter himself. He was a booker. He's been a backstage producer in WWE.
Yeah.
I know he's not doing that now, but he did for a while. And he's even still on the screen today in AEW. I mean, I think this guy's had a golden career. And if there's anyone, you know, and I know it sounds cliche to say, but if there's anyone deserving of being in the Hall of Fame, it's Jeff Jarrett. I mean, his legacy in wrestling, he's had his hands on so many different things throughout wrestling history, different promotions and different roles. He's had a tremendous impact, no pun intended, on the modern scene of pro wrestling.
Yeah,
100%. I 100% agree with that totally. I mean, like I said, he's done everything. I think he's probably one of the best mindset, obviously, in wrestling today, to be honest with you, but that's just me. Haney, what about you?
Yeah, no, definitely. But was it Tony Khan? I mean, I'm sure he's got him doing some stuff, but Tony Khan is missing an absolute trick with Jeff, particularly with the promotions and the events and the arenas and things like that. The relationship that man has with, he's just very, he's got that sort of let's do business with this guy mentality, you know, because he's a great marketing guy as well. You know, some of the if you read about some of the stuff he did with, what was it, TNA and what they did in the UK, he's well respected by a lot of the sort of industry over here, you know. Because he worked with them, he came over here and did indie shows, you know, did TNA, what was it called? He's like Liam, you know how much TNA is loved in the UK, you know.
100%, absolutely,
you know,
yep.
Yeah, so what was it? He really needed that as well because he had a hard time. Obviously, he had his struggles with alcohol and things like that. What was it? Lot happened, you know. What was it? People were very judgmental, but a lot happened. Lost his wife, you know. What was it? It was running a wrestling company would probably turn you to alcohol, you know. What was it called?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, what was it? And then obviously the sort of turbulence with Dixie and things like that, and GFW, and then he really needed that closure and that sort of redemption. big props to the Road Dogg and Triple H for that. You know, if you
Yeah.
the story out there. I mean, the Triple H in particular has mended quite a few fences. It was great to see. I knew who he was, but I didn't really get to see him. Like, it was great to see like the great Bruno Sammartino be brought back into the fold before he passed. You know, because that would have been really sad if it wasn't. You know,
Mhm.
it was and Triple H did the same with Jeff, and he was Jeff's one of the biggest problems with management is he's one of the boys, you know, and
Yeah.
he was never one of these guys that I'm the boss, you know. He was always one of the boys as well. So much deserved induction.
100%, 100%. I think he's like I said, he's an incredible talent, and he's one of those wrestlers that I emphasize what I said at the start is when I obviously first watched him, I'm like, I'm not really a big fan of this guy, but when you learn about him more, see him in the ring and stuff, you're like, actually, this guy is really, really good. You know what I mean? And like I said, I listen to his podcast a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like obviously his insight into wrestling and stuff like that. And like I said,
Yeah.
I think you both said it best. 100% worthy. Do you know what I mean? The Hall of Fame induction. And like I said, I mean, he's got one last run, obviously, in AEW. So who knows what the future holds?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I agree.
Hopefully,
So-
hopefully, ditches that Conroy talked about what his name is. I can't stand him. He's in the
Uh,
podcast.
He's not that
Oh.
bad.
Oh, he's fucking dreadful. You know, Jesus Christ. You
We need to
know,
replace him with the young whippersnapper Liam Wakeland.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely awful, that Conrad. I don't understand why. You know, it's like, shut up, piss off.
Oh dear, guys! This has obviously been our show today. If you obviously want to check us out, head obviously into our link tree. All socials are on there: our Instagram, our Twitter, our TikTok, our YouTube, and stuff like that. And obviously next week you're obviously taking over the show. Do you know what I mean? You're leading the actual line. Are you excited?
Yep, looking forward to it. It's going to be great. You know,
Okay.
what was? Do you want me to? What was it? Let everybody know what it's about, or will we keep it a surprise?
It's up to you.
Yeah, it's the 101 greatest moments of Eva Marie. Can't wait. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
I can't even think of one. 901.
We got to find an all red background.
Yeah.
I'll be on that. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some obviously shows through the week as well. We've got Marshall Warner on the show. We've got the show for 3 with the Hot Tag Foundation, and of course we were back here next Saturday, same time, 6:30 p.m., 1:30 Eastern. That's correct. I'm just making sure that is actually correct. And stuff like that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Mr. Isaacs, I know we haven't got an outro yet, but yeah, you can see us out to the outro.
Yeah, guys, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the program today, and be sure to like and hit subscribe. And what do the YouTubers say? Smash the like button. For some reason, they always say smash it. That sounds kind of violent, but smash the like button, hit subscribe, and feel free to chime in the chats. And we'll be here talking some wrestling again next week. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for watching, guys.